What's the reason for that? Why don't we see pine trees in here? And the reason is
Ground consistency.
because of the ground consistency. Exactly, the nature of the soil. Actually, just the soil texture alone makes such a great difference what kind of forest you get. So in here, you look at the soil, you know, it has a little bit of sand, not much. Even if you rub it, you don't feel sand. But if you take the soil and go like this, what will sand do if I do this and open my hand? It'll just sift out, right? But this forms a sausage. So it shows that it has silt and or clay in it. So this is what's called a heavy soil. And heavy soils are what the hardwood trees need. Because the heavy soils hold more nutrients, so there's more fertilizer. This is red oak. It's the red oak group. They have pointed, the lobes, tips are pointed. And on the white oak, the lobe tips are rounded. And so these acorns are sweet immediately in the fall, and the squirrels eat them the gray squirrels eat them right away. The red oaks are bitter, full of tannin, and they bury them in the ground over winter, and the tannin leaches out, and by spring they're tasty. I'm going to tell a hickory tree is by the bright yellow buds. They get even brighter yellow when they're dormant. Another name for this tree is yellow bud hickory. And so that's an important wildlife food too for deer and squirrels and other animals, are the hickories. They only grow on these heavier soils, so they will not at all do well on sandier soils.
What's that leaf structure?
These logging roads that go through the woods, they are highways for non-native plants, for invasive plants to come into the woods. So here we have one of these non-native plants that has used the logging road as access to the interior of the forest. This is called tansy. It's native to Europe. It's come in here. It's a type of chrysanthemum, but has no petals. And this is a worm medicine. So, or was used as a worm medicine back in the old days. It's toxic, so you would go to an herbalist. You don't want to be making a worm medicine on your own, because this is the barren quartzite. The Felsenmeer is completely made of this. And so I'll tell you the story now, and then you'll have it in your minds when we see it. So about 1,800,000,000 years ago, it's almost 2 billion years ago, two continents collided here in northern Wisconsin. It was kind of like India going into Asia, and sliding under. So the smaller continent was like India, and then the big northern continent was like Asia. Canada was like Asia. So this little continent hit the northern continent and started sliding under and pushed up all these mountains through northern Wisconsin called the Pinocchio Mountains. And so they were huge. They were as big as the Himalayas. But the thing is, there weren't any land plants at that time. And so erosion happened really, really fast. The mountains wore down really fast. So by 1.7 billion years ago, there were huge amounts of sediment washing across most of what later became North America. So these are the sediments that eroded off the mountains to the north. The sand and the clay. The sand made the quartzite, and the clay made the pipestone, which are veins in the quartzite, which is metamorphic clay, where the rivers were braided streams. So like you would see in Alaska, where the glaciers melt in the mountains, the rivers go like this, braided back and forth, because there's not much vegetation holding the banks. They're not nice and straight. And so all these braided streams were going from northern Wisconsin all the way down to Kansas and throughout much of North America, carrying loads of sediment. We're fortunate that some of this is exposed here so we can see it. It covers much of the central United States, but it's deep, thousands of feet underground. Here it's exposed in northern Wisconsin because of the uplift and the erosion.
So it is metamorphic. It's actually
it is metamorphic. So this started as sand coming down eroding off the Pinocchio Mountains. It changed to sandstone, and eventually it got squeezed together so hard and cemented that it turned into a metamorphic rock called quartzite. Quartzite's the hardest rock there is. It's so hard that the grains of sand fuse together. So if you take a piece of sandstone and you hit it with a hammer, it'll crack around the sand grains, so you'll feel the inside. You can feel the sand in a piece of sandstone. If you take a piece of quartzite and hit it with a hammer and open it up, you won't feel the sand. It's smooth because it goes right through the old sand grains. So it's solid silica, and the silica is really hard. And so that's why it's so hard. That's why the Blue Hills here stand above the surrounding countryside. That's because this rock is so resistant to erosion that it stands above the surrounding countryside. Well, this is volcanic rock. This is basalt, and this came from the Lake Superior region, where about 800 million years ago there were lava flows. So, and see how it's all rounded? So these round rocks were carried down by glaciers, by ice sheets. So this is all glacial material that was dropped on top of this quartzite. Some of it's from Canada, some of it's from farther north in Wisconsin or even Minnesota. So that's why we have a variety of rocks, but you can tell the glacial rocks because they're all rounded. The local bedrock is so hard that it's all jagged, it's sharp-edged.
What are those white rocks over there?
Those there?
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look. I love how the moss is, look at this moss. This is quartzite, so this is a local quartzite, but it must have been inside a glacier to get rounded. But isn't that wonderful how the moss is growing on it?
Year, isn't it?
Well, they're out all year, but they don't sing this time of year.
Spring peeper.
They don't do their peeping right now.
You said it's also called the what?
Spring peeper. Oh, Hyla crucifer is their Latin name.
Because
of the X on their back. They have like an X. That's the crucifer part. Yeah.
Early meadow rue, R-U-E.
Are they edible?
Bunch of puffballs.
When they're young, yes, they're edible.
What's this? Is a polyform?
This is a polypore. Polypore. Sorry.
Is that what they call chicken something? No.
No, that it looks
Chicken
like
of
it,
the
but polypores are woody, and each year they put on a ring of growth, so they get bigger and bigger every year,
Oh, okay.
and they have pores underneath, much smaller than
So
bull
they
leaves.
don't die, huh?
No, they just keep growing bigger. Well, eventually they die, but they just keep getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, the chicken of the woods is just it lasts for a short while. There's pores underneath. Yeah.
Woodland sunflower.
Squaw
Oh, so they weren't.
And it is, I know it's a politically incorrect name, but that's still in the book, squaw root. And it is a parasite on oak roots. And here we have an oak tree, and it's attached to the oak roots and gets its nourishment from that. In that oak tree, we get cut. Oh yeah, and then the squaw root's going to be out of business unless it sprouts and stays alive. So these are the flowers of the squaw root. They look kind of like a pine cone. It's related to broom rape, the broom rape family. They're all parasites.
Squaw roots. I shot some of this.
Felsenmeer is a German word. Felsen are boulders, and Meer, like it comes from the Latin. Mare, it means a sea. So it's a sea of boulders. This really isn't a true Felsenmeer, because a true Felsenmeer would develop on level ground. And it forms by the bedrock getting broken up by freezing and thawing. When water gets into the cracks, it freezes and busts the rock apart. So you end up with all these jagged, broken boulders. It's happened at the end of the Ice Age, when you had freezing and thawing, you know, day and night, and the rock just got busted apart. That's when all this formed too. So this is technically talus. This is a talus slope because it's on a slope, and it's broken rock on a slope, so it's talus.
And it tumbled down.
And it's still tumbling down. Yeah, you'll see some that are freshly exposed. But the name Felsenmeer stuck. It's been exposed and sitting there for many, many, many years. The pink is the new stuff that started tumbling down. So you can see what rocks have moved. The pink ones have moved. They've turned and rolled down. So it's a constant process of rock slowly working its way down. How did this all start? Well, you know, we're on bedrock here, so why is there this canyon here? It likely was a fracture in the quartzite, and through freezing and thawing, it was a weak point and opened up. Meltwater from the glacier, the glacier was just to the north here, so meltwater came through and washed it out. And then at the end of the Ice Age, the freezing and thawing broke apart the rock and created all this. Nobody's sure how deep this goes, how deep the broken blocks of quartzite go.
We're going to go through this.
What's the truth about the Blue Hills?
The Blue Hills have never been as high as they are now.
Why is that?
The only reason that they're here now is because the hard quartzite rock is more resistant to erosion than the surrounding sandstone. And so as the glaciers and other form of erosion have worn down northern Wisconsin, the Blue Hills, because they're harder, they're eroding down too, but they're eroding down a lot slower than the sandstone around them. And so over time, they're going to appear taller and taller and taller, but it's only because the sandstone next to them is going down faster. As you can see how white it is.
White cushion moss.
White cushion moss, leucobrium. And so they grow just like a coral or a sponge with no rock inside of them.
White cushion moss.
White cushion moss. They
I
start,
know there's.
oh, there's a puffball.
There's a rock there.
There's a root, yeah.
No, there's a rock.
Is it a rock?
They'll grow on rocks too.
No, that's a root. See,
Well, that's a red.
that's a root. Yeah.
Oh.
But it didn't have anything to do with the moss. It just started in the ground.
What?
Here's another one. It's just a cushion of moss. See,
Cushion moss.
white cushion moss.
Get bigger and bigger.
Trailing arbutus.
Like mint, you'll like that.
This is a squaw root. Parasitic plant.
It has no leaves, and so the coral root orchid lives underground, attached to a fungus. Some people call it a fungal parasite. There might be some kind of something it does for the fungus. We don't know for sure. Yeah, so it just sends up the flower stalk without any leaves whatsoever.
What's this called again?
Coral root, because the leaves look like coral. They're kind of like, not the leaves, excuse me. The roots look like coral. Edible mushrooms.
Honeycaps.
Are they good to eat now?
Well, they're getting they're dry. I probably wouldn't eat these because they're kind of old already.
Like something tried to.
Something dug them, yeah. These are honeycap mushrooms. Some people call them Polish mushrooms locally. The Latin name's Armillaria melea. These are some of the better eating mushrooms that we have. They grow in abundance in clusters, as you see like this. They are a parasite on tree roots, and they can kill trees. They will basically dissolve the roots of the trees so they fall over. So sometimes when you see trees that have rotted roots that fall over in a storm, that's because of this fungus going after the roots of the trees. But these are delicious mushrooms. They make a great soup. Foamies.
That's bird bark.
Foamies?
Foamies, F-O-M-E-S.
And you said it's used in Siberia as a cancer treatment?
For stomach cancer.
And you can burn it.
And you can burn
Yes,
it.
me.
Makes good tinder.
You said that bird bark.
That's birch bark. They're a low creeping plant. And they're kind of bland. They don't taste like much, but they're food, and the birds like them. And they'll stay on all winter, sometimes even into the following summer.
We got what do we got here? I got a
Bald-faced hornet overwintering. Queen overwintering.
big one, isn't it?
the queen.
They all die. Only a new queen. So it goes through.
I didn't know they overwintered in rotten logs like this.
Oh, neat. Rattlesnake orchid.
Rattlesnake orchid, Goodyear pubescens.
Scaly.
Yeah.
Is it rare for this area?
No, not here, but I think nationally it's not real common, of course. It's an
Rattlesnake
orchid.
orchid.
And the leaves are evergreen, so they stay like this all winter and into next spring. And the flowers aren't real spectacular. It sends up a stalk with little white orchid. There's a whole bunch of them right there. There's the Pinocchi Mountains carrying all this sand and other sediment. Well, these are the ripples in the bottom of that river from about 1,800,000,000 years ago. This was actually the bottom of a river. So this saw sunlight almost 2 billion years ago, which is amazing to think of. And so somebody who knows about this can tell you which way the current was going, because one side is slightly less sloped than the other.
That went from this way.
Yeah.
Would drop off.
So what's in those braided streams?
Ripple marks. We're going through a narrow little gorge here. Stone.
Comfortable.
Little mushroom, make it.
Mushroom there. Big rocks.
You see the pink.
Coming through this rocky little gorge. There's just a wall of ferns here. Very rocky canyon we're going through. These are mountain ash berries. They're all over this place. falling from the trees up here. You can see them up in here. It's not easy going. It's the underside of the polypody ferns. There's some red
Sorry.
Sawyer. What is
Yep.
that? It's just
They're packets of spores.
packets of spores.
Yeah.
Polypody. And this is the front. All over that canyon.
Evergreen.
Evergreen.
And the rootstock was used as a very effective cough suppressant.
Great
So
cough suppressant.
cough syrup. Yeah, you can. If you go online, you can Google polypody cough syrup, and you'll see pictures of old medicine bottles that say polypody cough syrup.
There's an interrupted club moss. They're all connected. Tall moss. Polypody ferns all over the place. Bunchberry.
The moss?
Yeah.
Well, they
Bunchberry.
have to hold fast, but then once it starts, they just keep growing and growing and growing.
There's a partridge berry growing up a tree. Mike says he's never seen anything like this. This is the third non-chlorophyll plant we've seen. It's Indian pipe. Dead. It looks like, well, black. Indian pipe.
The pioneers used them for scouring pots and pans because of the silica content. Oh, Gawar pad. Like a Brillo pad. Yep.
There's a field of horsetail. I mean, they're just all over the place.
One plant.
One plant?
One plant.
This stuff.
Yep. One plant. Been growing here for maybe thousands of years.
Which plant?
The horsetail.
No, which is the original?
Where did it start? Probably in the middle.
Okay. Just kidding you. Wow.
Growing with it.
Maidenhair fern. Now, how do we tell it's maidenhair? Because it's black.
Well, the black,
Yeah, and
the black
the
stalk,
pattern.
and
Black
yeah, it's like
stalk.
a horseshoe
The
pattern.
little leaves,
soft.
leaflets are very specific.
Horseshoe pattern. What horseshoe pattern?
Well, it's kind of in a U, the way it grows, so around like that.
Oh,
See how the leaves are attached in a U
I
shape.
see. Yeah, it's like a horseshoe.
We call it a horseshoe
And the
pattern.
leaflets are very
Like here, and it goes around. It's kind of like a horseshoe.
These very delicate
Maidenhair.
leaflets. Maidenhair fern.
Is this the one that Native Americans use for
Yes.
baskets?
Yes.
wiry.
Yeah, the wiry stems used for baskets.
Club moss. Big club moss here.
Holy
And it is distinguished
Club
by the
moss.
name.
Pine tree club moss, large form.
Yeah.
You gotta have my hand for comparison here. How big? Look at how big this is.
It is big.
There's my foot.
Yeah. Little garter snake there. I think he knows he's surrounded.
It's like, oh, which way do I go?
Where do I go now?
Humans everywhere. I think.
That's
Club
nice.
moss.
Pine tree club moss.
Pine tree club. Where is it?
Look at that big one.
Right there.
This is the giant form. Yeah. I put my foot next to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Holy
Big.
Mike.
That's amazing. It's taller than.
How can you tell it?
It looks like a miniature bracken fern, just a dainty little triangular fern, real thin stem, found in moist, shady areas. Real delicate, soft.
The whole thing out of the ground.
Hidden ferns.
Here's a type of rhododendron called Labrador tea, and typically a bog plant, but grows out here in the Felsenmeer too. It's probably because of the nutrient poor conditions.
Wow, look at this. This is not your everyday topography.
Leucine.
We're not going back to the same way we came.
Rocks here. We got lichen on the rocks and in between the rocks. There's lichen. Lichen. What?
Caribou lichen. Or reindeer lichen.
Reindeer lichen. It's found very spongy, dry.
Arctic's covered with it. That's what the main food source.
Oh, really? Wow. A little cliff up there. So many rocks.
Yeah.
When you go over here. Hey, Mike. Oops. Going up the hill. So this is tumbled down recently. That's why it's redder.
Mhm.
The rest of this stuff it's caused by freezing and thawing of the bedrock.
Ice wedging.
Ice wedging. It's called ice wedging.
The fertile parts of the moss with the spores. It's called a sporophyte.
So that's the spore. That's the fertile part of the moss. Those little tentacles coming up in this mud.
Yep. And you have the little container here. It has the spores in it. It comes out like a salt shaker into the air.
Okay.
Of lichens. Some crustose lichens here, right? They can't peel them off. Here's some foliose lichens. I don't know what kind, but I have not seen these elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they
top are different too.
and they don't survive moved out. You know, I tried moving a little piece into an alpine bed.
This is different from the other reindeer lichen.
The ones you usually see, yes. It forms these little tufts, these little balls. Yeah.
You said you typically see these in the Arctic, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's what the caribou eat.
We don't. So how come are they around here? You just see them here?
Well, here in the Felsenmeer, you got all this cold air, right? So you're getting plants from farther north. Yeah. I mean, take a look at these here's some other reindeer lichens. You can see the difference between them, this one, and that. All different species of reindeer lichen.
So that's one species, and that's another species, and that's the third species.
Yep.
Wow. So these are all three types of reindeer lichen together.
It's way down there
Coming out
somewhere.
of Felsenmeer.
And the climate might be changing too, getting warmer.
Water's coming out of the hill here.
Put my hand by it for scale.
Yeah. So white milkweeders. Look at these pods. What's going on with that?
Those seed buds. We'll have the fluffy seeds in there.
But there's some basswood, big leaves, little plant. Bang.
That is a trifolium. It is not high bush cranberry. They're red, but it's in that same family. Same family. Haven't seen one of those in a long time.
Oh, it's over here too. So this, you don't think this is not sassafras?